Welcome back to my channel. This is my very first live anything. I've never done Instagram stories live. I've never done YouTube. First booktube discussion. We've been reading Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward, and tonight is the night we are here to talk about. We're going to talk about the book. Hope you read it. Whether you read it this month, or you read it when it just came out, or you read it when this book got nominated and then won the National Book Award. Maybe you read it because you read another one of Jesmyn Ward's books. Maybe you stopped by the bookstore and someone told you, try this book out. Maybe you got it in your Book of the Month club. I got mine from the Book of the Month club. I'm not a Book of the Month subscriber, but my friend bought me a subscription for Book of the Month club. And because he bought me a subscription, he also got a free book. And so he wanted to give me that free book as well, because my mug is Grumpy from Snow White, which I guess you might think that is my favorite cartoon. No, I just really like the mug. I'm not a big morning person, so Grumpy is probably how I feel most mornings. That was before. I'm not probably ever going to be a morning person. I'm nocturnal, but sometimes the mornings can be a little hard. Let's try to find out why this isn't working. I'm on. I don't see anyone joining in, but that could just be because you're not showing up on my screen. I'm seeing reconnecting a viewer. Hey, welcome to our booktube discussion of Sing Unburied Sing. If you're new to the channel, I knew days because of the push to strike back demonetization. There have been a lot of new subscribers on the channel. I'm really grateful for each button you hit, so you'll get notifications when I do things like this live video. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to the booktube discussion. We're reading Runwright Reads. This is the Runwright Reads book club. The first book that we chose for January was Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward. This is the book that won the National Award for Fiction in 2017. And Jesmyn Ward has previously won a National Book Award. So I thought that this book must be pretty incredible for her to get another book award, I think 6 years after the first one. So I decided to read this. I wanted to use this book club to kind of explore books that have received awards, books that have been praised on that kind of level. And just to see, whether we agree with some of these awards. Just because a book has won an award doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a book that you enjoy. I love book prizes. I am really excited about book prizes. There are several booktubers that I have met who also love book prizes, and so one of them is Peg. And if you're not already checking out Peg, you should definitely look at her channel. She does research on just about every book prize around the world, and her channel is dedicated to book prizes. She reads for them, she reads short lists, and she just does research about the book prizes so she can bring them to you. But I'm pretty new to the National Book Award. I love the Pulitzer, love the Man Booker, love reading books by Nobel Prize winners just to kind of see what the quality of their writing is like and how that's different from just any other novel that you could pick up. So I was really excited to choose this book. I didn't know too much about it. I like to not have too much information about a book before I go in. I like to experience the story the way the author wrote it. I like to I like to see things being revealed as kind of organically, to see them come in and just allow the story to pull you in, just allow myself to be immersed in a story. So about 100 pages into this book, I finally allowed myself to read the synopsis in here. And I was glad that I didn't read it until then, because just at the point where I was in the story is where the synopsis ends, around page 100. And for me, if I had known too much of that going in, I probably wouldn't have been as excited about the book as I was. So, hey guys, I see there are more of you here now, so welcome. Welcome to the book club discussion, booktube live, my very first live video, so thanks for being here. We're talking about Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward. And I guess before we start with questions, maybe we'll do a little recap of what the book is about. So this is a split. Hey Alicia, that's Pretty Brown-Eyed Reader. She is an awesome subscriber. If she's not following your channel, I'm so sorry, you're missing out. She's one of my favorite subscribers. She's been on here from the beginning. Welcome Alicia. She's also the first person who bought one of my Runwright Reads book boxes. So thanks again for your support. And there are several other people on here, and I'm just really happy to be talking with you guys. So we're gonna do a little synopsis of what this book is about. Sing Unburied. Sorry for the interruption, guys. I'm on with the feed. This is my very first YouTube live stream. So again, this is probably not gonna be great. As long as we are both accepting, as long as we're all accepting of that fact that this is probably not gonna be a perfect live stream. Do not expect TV quality streaming. This is my very first video. I don't know how these things, we'll figure it out together. But thanks for being here to join in, that experience with me. So if we get interrupted, please, I will keep trying to reconnect until we get sorted out. But a little background on this book, Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward. So it is a split narrative. The main character that we're following, Joe, we meet him on the day of his 13th birthday. He is of mixed race, and his mother is African American, his father, and they're living in the South, in Mississippi, which means that they have the background of the experience of whites and blacks living together in that history. So Jojo, his name is Joseph. He's named after his grandfather, even though his grandfather doesn't want to have anything to do with him. His name is Jojo. And when we meet him, he is going out into the backyard with his grandfather, who he calls Pop. And Pop is this sturdy, patriarchal man, the macho man of the house. And he's teaching Jojo how to become a man. And it's very significant, I suppose, that when we meet him, it's on his 13th birthday, because that is generally the age at which boys are welcomed into manhood. There are several traditional African cultures and even the Jewish culture that recognizes that the boys transition into manhood at age 13. And so I guess it's significant that she mentioned that Jojo is turning 13 on this day when we meet him. And hey Phyllis. Phyllis says, hello from Orlando. Just discovered your channel. I read this book of the fall. Ward. Hey Phyllis, welcome to the discussion. Thank you for joining in. This is my first Jesmyn Ward book, so yes, I'm gonna say it's also my favorite because it's my only read. But I really enjoyed this one. So we're talking about the characters. So Jojo, we meet him, he's 13. He's hanging out with his grandfather. His grandfather is a farmer, because most people in that community probably do have some kind of a farm attached to their house and some kind of farming background in their life. And Pop is killing an animal. He's slaughtering a goat for Jojo's birthday. And in the opening paragraphs, Jojo says, as a matter of fact, I think it is the first line of the book. It says, "I like to think I know what death is. I like to think that it's something I could look at straight." And that is the opener for what this book is going to be about. It's Jojo's experience with death from several different perspectives. So while the narrative splits, the perspectives also split as we see these very different characters encountering death and sharing their experience with death in very different ways. The other perspective, well, there are three narratives in this book. Another perspective is his mother, Leonie. He doesn't call her mother, he calls her Leonie, because Jojo has very little respect for his parents as parental figures. So Leonie is a drug addict. Her boyfriend is in jail. And while they should be celebrating Jojo's birthday and celebrating Jojo becoming a man, the boyfriend, Jojo's father, calls to say that he's getting out of jail, and his mother pretty much abandons him so that she can go attend to her boyfriend who's on the phone. And that is just the setup, that is just to show you the kind of relationship that they have. Jojo doesn't get what he needs from his mother or his father. The father's family doesn't recognize him, and instead Jojo is tasked with protecting his baby sister. His baby sister's name is Michaela. She's named after the father. His name is Michael. But Jojo refuses to call her Kayla. And the mom, Leonie, she insists that the baby should be called Michaela because she wants to preserve that influence that the father should have, even though he's away in jail. And as the story moves on, the bulk of it happens on this road trip that Leonie and her co-worker, they work in a I guess they're waitresses, and they take this road trip along with the two children up to the jail to pick up Michael, who's about to be released. And what they encounter, what they do on this trip, shows the relationship that mother and her children. It shows the relationship with baby's sister. It shows Leonie's failure, her failures as a girl. It shows the relationship, the tortured relationship that she has with her coworker Misty. It shows relationship to women other than several times. His coworker Misty, I don't want to say sexual, but you can tell that he is definitely aware of her as an unrelated woman. So he compares other women to Misty. He talks about her body in that you can see that he's noticing her. And so that role also to be coming up. The book is hard to read. So we're back here, guys. So the story, like we said, is being told from this alternating perspective. Leonie, she is giving her side of the story because she's able to kind of explain why she does the things that she does. And in her telling her story, she shares how she sees her. So Leonie had an older brother. He was 3 years older, and he died when he was, I think, a high school senior. No, he didn't die from natural causes. He was shot and killed out on a hunting trip, and the death was covered up, called a hunting accident. What makes the story even sadder is the person who's older is friend's cousin. So this, I suppose, is a stereotype of life in these in the South or life in the West Indies, because that's where I'm from. This is where I know this, that everybody's related to somebody. And in the relationship, you can see how Leonie is haunted by her brother. Literally, she sees him when she gets high. He appears to her, trying to protect her, trying to get her to not engage in this self-destructive behavior. He tries to stop her from taking drugs, but she keeps taking the drugs because she sees gets high. So, kind of a catch-22. But Leonie is damaged. The relationship that she had with her brother seems to have been like her lifeblood, the thing that kept her going. And it's mirrored in the relationship that Jojo and his baby sister have. So Jojo protects Michaela or Kayla. He protects her like a parent should. He's there for her. He would put himself in harm's way to take care of her. Very selfless, very self-sacrificing in his relationship with her. And having an older brother myself, my brother is almost 4 years older than I am. I know that relationship where the older brother takes care of the baby sister. And so I assume that that's the relationship that Leonie had with her older brother and that she lost when he died. There's a scene where she explains how she had become pretty much empty. She'd become empty when her brother died. And so her decision to then start dating and having children with someone who's connected to the person who killed her older brother seems like she's burying herself, or the shroud of herself in this new relationship. And even her parents talk about how destructive it is, that it's like she's obsessing over him, maybe not because of who Michael is, but because of the connection that he has to the death, to the loss of her older brother. And so when Given, that's her older brother's name, when Given returns as a ghost, there's definitely that kind of split in her attention where when she's high, Given takes care of her. But when she is sober, Michael has to step in to be that person, to take over that role. And when he's not around, she feels that emptiness, and so she takes out that feeling by abusing her children in some way. This is a hard book to read because of the violence that these children endure, because of the very open way, striking, raw descriptions that Jesmyn Ward uses to portray the life that these children are living. Oh, there's one more. There's one more connection to death. Of course, how could I forget? The mother, Jojo's grandmother, Leonie's mother, she's sick. She has cancer. She has cancer when we meet her, and she's dying. It's clear that she's dying. She's just in the house. She's not really moving around. They talk about her almost in the past tense because they remember what she used to do, even if she's not able to do it anymore. And it is a very haunting story. The bird that is on the cover is a ghost. It's a ghost bird. Should I say that? Should I not say that? Is that a spoiler? No, I think once you look at this, since you know that this is a ghost story, since you know that there are supernatural elements in this story, I think we all know that this bird has to be otherworldly. And that character also appears and gives his version of the story. So there are several stories being told in here. Let me start by telling you that one again. So Jojo's telling his story, but in the middle of Jojo's story is Pop's story. Pop has been relating the story of his own childhood, his own youth. As a young man, Pop went to jail, the same jail where Jojo's father is. Alicia says I wasn't prepared for the ghosts. Yeah, me neither, because I didn't read the synopsis. But I think from the time I saw this bird, I knew that there was something weird about it, because I was trying to draw it, and I was like, that looks like a vulture, which eats dead people. Not people, I'm sorry. This looks like a vulture that eats dead things, dead animals, carrion. And the unburied and this vulture made me think that there was going to be some emphasis, some discussion of death, but I wasn't prepared for the supernatural elements. But you know, it reminded me of Beloved, Toni Morrison's Beloved, where we meet an undead character and we're not sure whether she's dead or whether she's someone who is pretending or whether she's a figment of someone's imagination. That's still a little unclear to me as I read and think about Beloved. And the same thing happens here. The way Leonie sees her dead brother appear and only when she's high, makes you think that maybe this is a hallucination from the coke or from the meth or something. But in a discussion that she has with Misty, her co-worker, very early on, I think the first time we meet Leonie, they're sitting around the table, they're taking drugs, and she gets quiet, and Misty says, "What's up? What do you see?" And she says, "Why do you think I see anything?" And she says, "Because you went silent. People are always moving. When they're not moving, there's something else happening to them." And that conversation kind of makes you think that Given is really not there. That it's not a figment of her drug-induced hallucination or her drug-induced imagination, but that she's really seeing him. And so Mom, Leonie's mother, Jojo's grandmother, is I don't know what you call her, an herbalist. She kind of deals with the supernatural, paranormal. She does... Phyllis says many cultures use drugs to commune with the dead, conjure spirits, etc. So I wasn't surprised when she saw him while she was high. Yeah, I watched a documentary some years ago. I'm not sure I'm going to tell you guys about this because I don't remember the details. But I remember, I'm sure we've all heard about people who use weeds when they smoke weed or they make a tea of weeds, and they're able to see things that you can't see normally. The drugs that they're using, I don't know too much about drugs. I'm not going to really get into that discussion, but it is interesting. It was interesting. Yes, weeds. Yes, I'm Jamaican. The weed. It was interesting to me that the author chose to portray Leonie in that way. The mom, I should call them by their right names. Mom, like I said, she actually is a herbalist. She's a herb doctor, and she in her youth, she was given, I guess she received the gift where she was able to know what weeds you could take as medicine to treat things, to help women with female issues, to help women have babies or not have babies depending on their choice. So she's a medicinal user of the weed, and she taught Leonie how to use the bush to cure things. And so it's very interesting that given that background, Leonie then resorts to induced high to deal with her problems, and that while she's using these chemical substances is when she sees her brother, as opposed to any other thing. And there's a comparison between Leonie's gift and her mother's gift, because the mother said she has a gift to know what bush to use, but she doesn't see the other world, so she could commune with it and get the... Venitra says, "I'm just getting home from work from the library. Glad I made it. I haven't read this book yet, but I'm curious to know what it's about." Venitra, we might spoil it for you, But I'm gonna not give away the ending. I'm gonna not tell you too much about the book. So stick around, stick around. Thanks for being here, Vernitra. So yeah, there's a comparison between the gifts. Ma has the gift of healing. Leonie has the gift of seeing. Jojo also has the gift, but he hasn't told anyone yet that he has the gift. So nobody knows that he can also see the dead. No one knows that he also can see things. And it becomes clear in his relationship with Kayla that he knows what to do. Seems like he knows instinctively what to do. I don't know if that's the gift, but he can see the spirits in a way that no one else seems to, because Leonie, she can only see her brother, which tells me that that is something that comes specifically for her. But Jojo can see the other spirit that appears around page, where does he come in? Somewhere around, where does he come from? Around page 100. Page 133 is where we meet that other spirit. And that is where we realize that Jojo has that gift as well. So sorry, I don't want to spoil that part of it for you, but yeah, definitely. Jojo can see. He's 13, he's trying to understand what it means to be a man. And when they go to the penitentiary, when they go to pick up his dad, is when Jojo finds out that he also has the gift. But someone else in the family also has the gift. And I don't know why they call it a gift, because I don't know if that's a gift. I don't think that that's a gift that I would want. That's a gift that I would definitely try to re-gift or return to sender. So that's pretty much what the book is about. It is this multi-generational epic is what I would call it. It is less than 300 pages, but it feels like a longer story because you get so much background on this family from their conversation with each other, from their relationship with each other. There was one thing that wasn't really explained too well, and that is Michael's relationship with his parents. There's a scene where Michael, well, before Leonie goes to pick him up, she wants to tell his mom and dad that, they don't need to go pick him up. She's going to do it. And she's afraid to call because she doesn't have a relationship with Michael's father. The mother is more sympathetic to her, and so she knows that if she calls, if the father answers, she won't say anything. But then when she calls and sort of give her the phone because he kind of knows that something's going on, let her deal with it. And there's a very interesting, I like the way that Jesmyn Ward wrote that, where she says if she called back a second time, Big Joe would give the phone to his wife so that she could deal with pretty much whatever nuisance was on the phone, whether a bill collector or someone with some bad news or the N-word that is calling about their son. Yeah, there are N-words in this book, as you can imagine. Any book that deals with racial issues in the South probably will include that kind of those kinds of racial slurs and that kind of description, because that was just a reality. And this is a present day book, so there's a scene also that has to do with all of them being in the car and they're coming back from the jail, and there's a run-in with the police officer. And it's very interesting to see how the police officer treats the people in the car. And you kind of imagine, so here's the scar. There is a woman, there's a black woman, there's a white man who's a passenger, there's another white woman that's a passenger, and there are these two mixed race children, one who is probably old enough to be recognized, assume that he might be a threat. And I'm assuming that the police officer is Caucasian, and how he treats them, how he relates to them is probably a little bit of a, probably gives you a little bit of pause, makes you make that comparison between some of the things that you've heard about in the news about police brutality and how African Americans are treated in run-ins with the law. So there's definitely that for comparison. And again, like I said, this is not a book. This is not a historical novel. This is present day. There is, the woman using her cell phone. So it is a contemporary read, and it still shows you I guess, the influence that the historical, racial, I don't like to talk about these things. The historical racial tension is still being described in this book, and it is a very present, real thing. So the Michael's parents, well, Michael's father doesn't want his son to be involved with a black woman, even though this is present day in America. There's discussion about Pop being in jail when he was a young man, which Pop's age isn't specifically told, but I'm assuming Pop would probably be in maybe his 60s. And so we're talking about maybe like 40 years ago when he's in jail. And his experience sounds like something that could have happened back in the 1800s, right after slavery had been abolished, and that racial tension was really thick. So I like the way Ward keeps the conversation, the different treatment of the races and their interaction, the prejudice and the bias towards interracial relationships. I like how she keeps that a really present issue, even though it's something that could just have easily been found in a historical novel. So let me ask you guys some questions. So I know there are a few of you on here that have read this book. So what do you think about... So let me just ask you first. Is everyone who's on the chat, has everyone read the book and read it in its entirety? In the beginning, there's a discussion about death. In the opening scene, we see Pop slaughtering an animal. He is killing something, and his treatment of the animal before he kills the animal is very respectful. So it shows his respect for life. Alicia said she finished today. Yay, Alicia, good job. So let's have that discussion about the comparison between the beginning of the book and the end of the book. So without giving the ending away, without saying too much about the book. Phyllis said she read it several months ago. Details may be fuzzy. So, okay. What I really wanted to ask you guys about. So, in the beginning, we see this animal being slaughtered, and it's a very respectful process. The way a grandfather selects the animal that is going to be killed and leads the animal away. Towards the end of the book, there's a description of someone being killed. It's in jail. He's been cornered. He knows he's about to die, but it's kind of a toss-up between it being euthanasia and a sacrifice. Do you find that there was some kind of a parallel between the ways that those two killings were described? And was it more or less difficult to read about the second event, where the second event was happening with a person, considering that you had read the first killing in the opening scene of the book, where it was an animal that was being slaughtered? I guess that's my question. So in the opening scene, the animal is being killed. in that later scene, a person is being killed. And there are distinct parallels between the way the creature is selected and kind of taken to that point, taken to that place where they will die. Was that hard to read when it was happening to the person because you had read it happen, or was it easier, a little bit more palatable to read? It's a difficult question. Is it? Your guys' thoughts on that? I grew up in a farming community. I've seen animals being led to the slaughter. I've seen goats being killed. I've seen chickens being killed. My parents are teachers. My dad is a teacher, but my dad loves farming. He has lots of animals. And when we were kids, we had a chicken farm in our backyard. And so I have helped with the preparation of the chickens, to pluck the feathers out, to dip them in the boiling water so that the feathers would come out easily, peel off the skin off their feet, and so on. A lot of people who have grown up in farming communities have also experienced that, maybe themselves, or seen it happen. Does it make it hard to read about, does it make it hard to read about it happening to animals, or does it make it hard to read about it happening to this person? I'm so sorry I missed that. I missed that, guys. What did you say, Alicia? Alicia said, I felt the later killing was merciful. The animal killing didn't bother me so much because I'm from a rural area. Seen it all my life. Yeah, me too. Phyllis says, I thought the person's killing was a merciful death, done out of love to avoid torture or pain. Yeah, Vernitra says, yeah, Vernitra, I didn't always live in New York City. I am from the country in Jamaica. But yeah, I think that Ward set that up. I think she might have even included some of the details about the killing of the animal here because she wanted to show Pop, whose name is River. She wanted to show him in that role as being respectful of life, and being willing to help this creature to get to the end. And so that for me was just very significant. I don't know if that was something that you guys noticed when you were reading it, but that was something for me. Phyllis says, I'm a city girl. So yes, I'm super sensitive about animal slaughter, but it was done almost kosherish. Yeah. And you could tell that whoever, if she didn't write this herself, I mean, no, I'm not saying that she didn't write the book herself. I'm saying if she got like information about this from someone, she must have seen, no, Jesmyn Ward grew up in Mississippi. I'm thinking that anybody who grew up in Mississippi knows about this kind of stuff. You've seen animals being prepared for slaughter. So this was I like the treatment. It was a book that was about a very difficult subject. This is not a book that I probably would have chosen if I had known all the details about the supernatural stuff. But I think that the way she treated it was very respectful. You know, the matriarch of the family being sick and dying is something that happens in a lot of families. The way she talked about the mom was still very respectful. Like, she didn't really diminish the mom in your eyes in order to show her going through the process of dealing with cancer. As a matter of fact, she explained that mom had gotten cancer, she got rid of it. And so you got to imagine that mom had regained some of her strength, and then she got it again. And it shows her fighting this disease, shows her what's the word? Like it shows her being responsible for herself. It shows her researching the weeds and the herbs that she could take. And it shows her being proactive. That's the word. It shows her being proactive in seeking her own treatment and trying to help herself until, it wasn't working anymore. And even while she's there, even while she is sick and she's dying, Ward gives her a very responsible way to kind of deal with her own path. Like she makes it almost a choice that mom is making when she tells Leonie that she's ready to go, and here's what I want you, Leonie, my baby, the one who has the gift, the one that I'm passing on my skill, my gift, my talent, my legacy too. And she kind of forges this bond with Leonie. She asks her kind of to do the impossible, but she gives her a gift in doing it. And the way Ward wrote that was actually kind of beautiful. She brings the whole family back into that experience. People who were gone, people who are reappearing. Some of it was confusing, but I enjoyed the way she wrote it. I think that she did a pretty good job. Phyllis says the ghosts were symbolic. People are often haunted by issues and incidents. So Phyllis, are you saying that you don't think that they actually saw the ghosts? I thought about that too. I did think about that when I was reading it, whether or not the ghosts were supposed to be real. Kayla the baby she's about 3. I can't remember if her age is specifically stated, but Kayla is about 3 years old, and she sees the ghosts as well. So is Kayla being haunted when she sees the ghost? Because Pop doesn't see any of the ghosts. He's haunted. Pop is probably the one who has gone through the most in this family. I mean, he is the patriarch of the family, and he wasn't able to protect his son. He lost his son anyway. Provider for mom, and yet he can't provide for mom when she's dying. She's sick, and he can't do anything to help her. He went to jail. He came out definitely changed. And I'm assuming growing up and living in the South, there is definitely some kind of emasculating experience that he's faced when he talks about the history of men being lynched and men being accused of things and pretty much being tried without a jury of their peers. And Pop is still really strong. So even though his experiences, even though he is haunted by his past, he doesn't see the ghosts. So that's a really interesting point, but I'm not sure if I see it that way. So please, say more. Say more, Phyllis. Phyllis says, I think the character saw the ghosts as written. I meant the ghosts are literary devices. Oh, okay. Alicia says he doesn't see ghosts, but he constantly smells blood. Yes. So he talked about that at the end where he said he tried to get the smell of the blood off his hands. And even when he tried to replace the smell by the smell of his wife, getting into a relationship with her, trying to forget the pain by immersing himself in the love that the relationship with his wife offered, he still couldn't lose the smell, couldn't lose it. And so I imagine that Pop spent probably most of his adult life being haunted by these ghosts, but not being able to see them because he didn't have the gift. So another thing that I found really interesting is the names. So the naming of the characters is something that as a writer I'm always interested in how characters' names might reveal something about what the author wants us to see or to expect from this person. So Jojo is named after his grandfather. Doesn't have a relationship with him, doesn't can't count on him for anything, but he has his name. The name is Joseph. What does Joseph mean to you as a character's name? Could have been anything. Joseph, for me, Bible characters, there are two. There are three. There's Joseph the dreamer, who was taken from his family and ended up saving his family after he'd been sold into slavery. There's also Joseph, the father of Jesus Christ, who was called upon to bear a burden for his family because he was taking responsibility for a situation that kind of didn't come about. It didn't come about because of him, didn't come about because of any choice that he had made, except that his fiancée had been chosen to be the mother of the Christ. And then there's a third Joseph in the Bible, Joseph of Arimathea, who gives the tomb for Christ's body to be buried in. So all three of these Josephs are very sacrificial. They're called upon to bear a burden for other people. That is the characteristic that I see Jojo having. But he's named after his grandfather, who doesn't seem to be very self-sacrificing. In fact, he appears at first glance to be a racist, bigoted boor. Until Leonie tells the story of her brother being killed. And even then, I kind of struggled with the portrayal of Big Joseph's character, because he's the one who they called when Giffen had been killed and the other boy needed to report what had happened. And Big Joe was definitely going to be the one who was going to get him off or get him out, trying to make sure that he didn't have to face the full consequences of what had happened. And I'm imagining that having a son around the same age must make you think about what had happened. And maybe he was haunted by that himself, but now having his son go and start a relationship with that boy's sister means that forever he can't escape the memory of what happened, the cover-up that he participated in, or any of it. It doesn't seem like Michael has any siblings. So Michael is supposed to be the hope for his family. And when Michael goes and has a relationship and has children with a black woman, as a racist family, I can't imagine that they were too excited about that. And so Big Joe is not happy. And I'm not saying that Big Joe is right. Please, I'm not endorsing his behavior or anything. But he's probably never gonna get over that fact that he's lost his son. He's crossed over to the other side. Okay, so that's Big Joe. Michael is the son. Why is his name Michael? What does Michael mean? in the Bible again, the archangel, right? Michael is a Christ. In the Michael is another name for Jesus, and the choice give is Jojo's father, Michael, the man that Jojo doesn't call him dad, is everything except Christ-like. Instead of sacrificing, he is the one that everyone sacrifices for. Leonie sacrificing her children, essentially, so that she can please her boyfriend. She sacrifices herself so that he won't get in trouble. She sacrifices her parents. In her description of, Alicia says, I thought Michael was an appropriate name for because of the war angel. Yep. He's that. He's the one who brings, he's kind of the antagonist in the, because it is in responding to Michael on the phone that Jojo isn't able to have his birthday. His mom ignores him on his birthday because Michael is calling on the phone. It's also, Michael also precipitates the change in Leonie's life. She's going to school when she gets pregnant, and I don't know if ever forgave Michael for that, because he's the reason that Leonie's no longer going to school. I mean, they had 2 children. They can't have any more children. And here now is Leonie ending what is their dream for her and going off to have children with Michael, who in traditional society, Michael should be providing for Leonie, except now he's shacking up with her parents. So yeah, Michael is the antagonist in this book, and it's interesting that because he's antagonist, that the relationship that Leonie has with him, where she's willing to sacrifice just about everything and everyone for him. Yeah. For an interracial relationship, it's also kind of a different look at probably some of the dynamics that we're used to reading about in relationships of this kind. But Phyllis says, great analysis of Jojo's name. I thought it was a throwback to the legacy of slaves taking their owners' names. That's a good point too. I thought about that, but I probably wouldn't have said it. So thanks for saying it here. Phyllis also says the child is named after a man who despises his mother and him by extension. Yeah, so they get to the house, they go to visit, and the child, his grandchildren, they can't come in the house because he doesn't want to have anything to do with them, even though they have his name. There's a sentence in here where I'm not gonna, I apologize, I didn't annotate this book. Sentence in here that Jojo talks about losing his fingerprints, and that made me think about losing his identity and what his identity really is. In the beginning, where he talks about his family, and he talks about this mom and pop and his other grandfather and other grandmother. It's on page 4 where he says, Big Joseph is my white grandpa, Pop, my black one. I've lived with Pop since I was born. I've seen my white grandpa twice. Big Joseph is round and tall and looks nothing like Pop. He doesn't even look like Michael, my father. Yeah, Phyllis, Alicia agrees with you. So Death becomes a character in this story in a way that I think we're introduced to this idea in The Book Thief, if you've read The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak, where death is the main, death is a narrator in that story. In this book, one of the unburied characters also gets a chance to tell the story, and that character becomes the epitome, I guess, of death, and shows the complexity, shows the reality of separation. I don't necessarily want to say death because they're unburied. It's haunting. It reminded me of Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders, which is the other book that won one of the really great awards last year. Lincoln in the Bardo won the Man Booker Prize, and they talk about very similar, I mean, they address very similar themes. This idea of a person who has died and not being able to find rest, and still interacting with the present, interacting with the people still in this life, because they're not able to find the closure or the answers that they're looking for, not being able to move on until they have achieved some level of peace, and whether that peace that they're searching for actually is available. In this book, the character invites sympathy because it's a very young character. And similarly, in Lincoln in the Bardo, the character in that book is a young boy, Abraham Lincoln's child, his son Willie, who I can't remember how old he is, but he's definitely a young boy as well. I'm not sure if it's around the same age. But seeing these young children being haunted to not be able to achieve peace, to not be able to move on to that next world, would be a very interesting idea, a very interesting concept to kind of wrap your mind around. Because like we talked about, Pop is the oldest character in this book. He's older than Mom, he's older than Big Joe, and so he's the oldest one. He's the one that has had the most life experience. He's the one that should be haunted by things, not these young children, not these, barely there, just crossing over into the brink of manhood characters. They shouldn't have seen so much to be haunted by the other world. And yet he's the one who seems to be at the most peace with these situations. So yeah, I just want to raise it as an issue. Venitra says, for those of us who have not yet read the book, what would you say is the main reason we need to experience it? The writing or the story? Alicia and Phyllis, I'm going to ask you guys to tell Venitra why she should read the book. Raven says, hi everyone, I just subbed a few days ago, so not read the book of the month, but sounds really good. Raven, thanks for being here. Yeah, this is my first Jesmyn Ward, and I think you should read it. I recommend it. Patrice says she listened to the book on CD. It was fantastic to listen to. Hey Patrice, welcome. Very original story, and I love Ward's poetic writing. It made me want to research Parchment Prison. So Parchment Prison is a real place. I didn't realize that, Patrice. Thanks for letting us know that. You see, people have asked me about writing because I write stories myself. And what I usually tell people is that most of the experiences that I write about are not necessarily things that have happened to me, but there are conglomerates of experiences and composite characters that writers create based on things that we have witnessed, things that we've heard, things that we have experienced. And I'm not going to say that everything that is written is something that someone has experienced that way or even experienced in any way, because there's a lot of fantasy that is produced as fiction. But probably some of the things that you have read that have stuck with you and that have impacted you most are real, are based on some real experiences. And so Patrice says, yes, the prison is real. Alicia says the writing is probably the thing that she'd recommend. She says she's not a fan of magical realism, so the story was difficult for her. Alicia, thanks for sticking it out, because I chose the book, so I also didn't know it was going to be supernatural. I might not have chosen this book if I had known, but I was intrigued by the fact that it was a National Book Award winner. This is my first book that I am choosing just on the basis of it being a National Book Award winner, and I didn't from a National Book Award winner, because I think I read somewhere that the award is not necessarily based on just writing quality. It's also a book it's an award that is given because of the popularity of the book. Like, I think the booksellers have a say in nominating books that are awarded the National Book Award. So Vernitra says she loves poetic writing. Phyllis says, I've read all of her work and I think she's Toni Morrison's heir apparent. Yup, Phyllis, I saw Toni Morrison's influence. I saw Beloved in this book. I saw the way that the characters related to the spirits and the spirit world, and not being surprised because the ghosts of ancestors or the ghosts of the people in their community would be around. And maybe next time I'll share one of my poems with you guys where I wrote about something similar some years ago. It's about recognizing not necessarily ghosts, not necessarily supernatural, but seeing the influence, seeing what the people in our lineage, the people in our past wanted for us, and kind of still feeling their presence in our lives, not in the way that Jesmyn Ward talks about them, but feeling their presence, trying to give credence to their experiences when we make decisions, and so on. I'll share that one day, not right now. Raven says, one book I want to read is The Immortal Life of Henry Lax. I haven't read that one either. Renitra says, I also don't gravitate towards magical realism stories. There's some authors I really want to experience, like Isabel Allende and Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Renitra, Gabriel Garcia Marquez is one of my favorite authors, and his writing is, I think, of a different quality than this. Gabriel Garcia Marquez is definitely magical realism because it has to do with magical elements to real things. I guess that's what magical realism is. KT is here. Hey, KT. But this was different in that these were just definitely ghosts. These were people who had come back from their unburied, undead, and coming back to resolve issues in this life because they couldn't move on to the next life. That is not a philosophy that I subscribe to. It is not a religious idea that I believe in. I think that when people die, the Bible tells us, and that is what I believe, that when people die, they don't know anything, they don't have any influence here on this earth. And so when I talk about feeling the influence of people who are no longer alive, I don't mean talking with the dead. I don't mean the way that Jesmyn Ward talks about that. I mean giving credence to the things that the people who lived before us have done. So them passing on their legacy in terms of the things that they've done, the words that they've written, the books that they have published, and that we're able to read and have some insight into what they thought, and giving some kind of consideration to their experiences and doing something that would have made them proud if they were still alive, even though they're not. I think that's the difference between what I was saying and what Jesmyn Ward is saying. And Gabriel Garcia Marquez shows how what he does is he emphasizes things. So I remember there's a scene in 100 Years of Solitude where everybody in the town could no longer sleep. They had amnesia, and for like weeks or months, maybe years, nobody could sleep, and they just existed without sleep for this time. And when he talked about that, he was, I think, speaking ironically, speaking kind of satirically about something that they were doing. I can't remember the details of the book, but something that had happened that had caused this change. And so while he's saying that these people hadn't slept for this much time, it was just to emphasize the fact that this change had happened and people were not resting the way they were. So I think that's the difference between magical realism and this supernatural paranormal stuff. I'm not necessarily a fan of that as a theme. I don't go out of my way to read supernatural books, paranormal books. But the writing in this, it drew me in. She doesn't mince words. Vernitra, in response to your question, she doesn't mince words. She describes things in a very real way that makes you feel like you're there. The dialogue is sparse. It's mostly descriptions. In the split narrative, I felt like when I was reading JoJo, I knew it was JoJo. When I was reading Leone, I knew it was Leone. When I was reading this other character, I knew it was this other character. She's very concise with her descriptions, and very, very concise and precise. And you feel like you could see the relationship between the characters without her saying that JoJo felt protective of Kayla, without her saying that Kayla was clingy or needy or anything. She showed the things that they were doing, and you could see the relationship between these two children kind of blossom in front of you. I appreciated that. I appreciated her writing style, even if I didn't absolutely love the subject matter. So Vernitra says, I don't gravitate towards magical realism books. There are some authors I really want to experience. Oh, we said that already. Kay says there's a group on Facebook called Now Read This that is discussing this book. The discussion is very interesting. So many different views on this book. Vernitra says, I actually love books that are heavy on description and lighter on dialogue. Most people like the opposite. So Vernitra, years ago, I would have preferred the opposite too. I didn't always love heavy descriptions. I remember reading Lord of the Flies I remember trying to read Lord of the Flies when I was a teenager. And I couldn't get over how little dialogue was in the book. So Phyllis says the effects of mass incarceration. Oh, Phyllis says she's covered the aftermath of Katrina, opioid impact in rural America, the impoverished, uneducated, disenfranchised, and taps into their suffering and survival skills in the effects of mass incarceration, etc. Yes, Phyllis, thanks for saying that. I could not have expounded on that myself so well, so thanks for writing it there so I can read it back for everyone. There are lots of topical issues that are mentioned in this book, and she dealt with them in such a way that she brought the issue to light without spending a lot of time being very political about it. So Michael is a welder. He goes away to work on the rig in Alaska, and she used that experience, him going there because of the spill that happened there, killed, and him seeing what happened. Leone searching the news for a picture to reassure herself that Michael is okay. and him being haunted again. So Michael is also haunted by the experience that he had on this on the oil rig. And just in that little vignette, she goes into a little bit of a detail to tell you the effects of the oil spill on the people, on the company, on the wildlife, and the effects on the families of the workers, how they sat around waiting for news of their loved ones. And that is really good. I mean, she brought that to light without dwelling on it. And then she moved on to another topic. The young men who are in jail. She talked about when Pop was an inmate, that they use these dogs to track runaways. And Pop was working under a man who was also an inmate, a former runaway himself, but he'd been chosen to lead this gang of men and dogs that would track other runaway slaves. And the reason that he'd been chosen, because he was white. He was a white man, a runaway criminal who was back in jail and was given a work gang and dogs to lead and so on because of his race. And so she talked about those issues without dwelling on them, and then she moved on to something else. So thanks for saying that, Philip, because yes, she does cover a lot of social issues and gives commentary that makes you think about that topic, makes you consider maybe her opinion, her view on the topic because of the way it's presented in the book, and then she moved on. So this is, I think this was a really, I don't want to say interesting, but this was a really good introduction for me. I'd never read Jesmyn Ward before, and I think I'll read something else by her. The other book that I heard, was it the other book that she won the book award for, was about, I don't know what the books are about, so let me not even try. But I'll probably read something else by her. So if you're thinking about picking up Jesmyn Ward, I'd recommend this. I'm not sure if this is the book that you should start with, but this is the book that I started with, and I feel compelled to read more from her, so I'd recommend it. Because of the writing, because of the way she encompassed so many different social topics and dealt with them, brought a perspective, and moved on, that she didn't mince words. She was very concise, very, very descriptive, but also didn't ramble. I like that. I think the book was the perfect length. It was under 300 pages, just about 285 pages in my copy. And I'm guessing that this is still on first edition, right? I don't think the paperback has come out yet. So I recommend it. I'm going to give this, I gave this a 4-star read. I gave this a 4-star rating on Goodreads. And I think I'm content with that. I'm often a little fuzzy sometimes between a 3 and a 4-star rating. A 5-star for me is a book that's flawless. This wasn't flawless. But I think I'm going to give this a 4-star rating. I already gave it a 4-star rating. What I'm saying is I'm content with my 4-star. This book. Yeah. So that's Sing Unburied Sing, guys. That's all I had to say about the book. Is anyone have any questions? Anything else that anyone wants to say about the book? I had some notes, but I don't think we're going to get to my notes. Let's see. We're not going to ask these questions because everyone hasn't read the book. I don't want to spoil it for you, Vernitra. So we're not going to talk about what happens at the end. But Kayla is in the last scene of the book. No, we're not going to do that. We're being respectful of Vernitra. So I think we've said all we need to say about Sing Unburied Sing. We've been on the chat now for over an hour and 12 minutes. So I think this is where we're going to wrap up, guys. Unless you guys have any questions you want to ask me or any final comments about the book. Does anyone have any suggestions about what the next book should be? So I've kind of been thinking, and Runwright Reads Book Club is to read prize-winning books. I think that's what we settled on for 2018. We're reading books that have been nominated for prizes, or, well, not just nominated, but have won book prizes, because there are these judges, people who are experienced with good books, who have gotten together and said, yeah, I think this book is supreme over all the books in this category, in this period. And so we think that this book is better than those other books, and we're going to give that book a prize. Sing Unburied Sing was the National Book Award winner for 2017 for fiction. And I've already read the Man Booker Prize winning book for 2017. That was Lincoln in the Bardo. The Pulitzer Prize for fiction for 2017 went to Colson Whitehead, Underground Railroad, which I read and didn't love like everyone else. Oh man, my mommy's calling me. You guys, you're gonna hear my mom. Mommy, I'm gonna call you back, okay? No, call me back. Call me back in 10 minutes. Okay? Call me back in 10 minutes. Okay. That's my mommy. It's time now, guys. We're on her time. So, Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead, I read in 2017, and I didn't love it as much as everyone else did. I found flaws in that book. And Vernitra, you laughing at me answering my mom. I can't not answer my mom as my mommy. So I've read that one. I read Lincoln in the Bardo, the Man Booker Prize winning book for 2017. And while I love it, I know a lot of people didn't. I could read it again and discuss it with you guys for next month. Or if you have another suggestion, what book you'd like for us to discuss next month. I'm open to suggestion, guys. I'm open to suggestions. So I think if you don't have a suggestion right now, I'm going to leave this up. This live video is probably going to be left on the site. And I'm going to invite you to come back when it's over, when the live video has been posted on my site, to come back and just post a comment about what book you'd suggest for us to read while we are preparing for February's Runwright Reads Book Club. And that's going to be it for tonight. I just want to say thank you for everyone who was here, whether you're here now or you popped in before and you're going to come back, or whether you missed the live stream and you're watching this as a video when it's up on the channel later. Thank you, thank you, thank you. On February 20th, YouTube is going to change a little bit. We still don't know all the details of how that's going to change. I apologize for the sirens. I live in Harlem, guys. I live in Harlem. Enough said. There's always sirens around. Between now and February 19th, small channels need to have at least 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time for the last 365 days before February 20th. So from February 20th, 2017 to February 19th, 2018, people should have watched your YouTube channel for 4,000 hours worth of video, and 1,000 people would have had to have subscribed in order for you to continue to be a YouTube partner. What I've been doing for myself and for other people, I've been encouraging people to just select a playlist from the channel and play it. You can open up several browser windows on your computer and play multiple channels. Leave them playing when you go to sleep at night. Help help other small YouTube channels to get some plays on their channels. A lot of people who, even though they have 1,000 or more subscribers, don't have 4,000 hours worth of playtime. That is probably the more challenging of the statistic. And so I don't have 4,000 hours. I might not get 4,000 hours. I'm okay with not getting 4,000 hours. I would like to get my subscriber count up. So if you're not yet subscribed, if you're here for the live video and you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Feel free to share any of my videos. I'm really proud of my book art, especially my book art playlists on my channel. I love when I make these creative videos. I know everybody doesn't like them. Some people just like to see you on camera talking about books, which I also love to do. I have no problem with that. But I love making these artistic videos, and so if you feel inclined to share one of my videos, a really good introduction to my channel. Journal flip. I'm sorry, we got disconnected again, but I was saying, feel free to share my videos, feel free to post videos. There are several other YouTubers on the chat tonight. If you're here for the chat and you're not yet subscribed to anyone, Vernitra is pretty new to YouTube, pretty new. Well, she had a YouTube channel before she deleted it, I suppose. She's back with Vernitra's book club, which she has, I think, 5 or 6 videos. And just yesterday, I binge watched all of them again and made comments. I really enjoy her, and one of the most supportive subscribers you could have. So if you're not yet subscribed to Alicia's channel, Pretty Brown Eyed Reader, definitely go by Alicia's channel, say hello to her, and you will love having Alicia as a subscriber. KT is also a very fantastic booktube friend to have. KT is Karen, anyone named Karen, awesome. And Kate told us about the Facebook group called Now Read This, and that is something that I like to talk about, comparing books and giving recommendations from one book to another. That's probably a video that's going to come from me in a few, let me say, about a week or so. I'm going to give you some recommendations based on books that you might have liked and other books that you might like because of that. Like, that's really weird for me to say. I'm going to recommend books for you based on other books that I've read and that are similar. Let's go with that. Raven Rain is new to my channel. She's new here on Runwright Reads. I'm not sure how long Raven Rain has had her channel, but please go ahead and say hi to Raven Rain. And Phyllis Rose, thanks again for being here. Phyllis is new from Orlando, new to Runwright Reads, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who stopped by. Patrice Jones was here tonight. Patrice, thank you so much for showing up, for being here, for the love, for our first Runwright Reads book club discussion. This went really long, guys. I didn't plan to be on here this long, but thanks for being here with me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Come back when the video is up. Leave me a comment about what book you want us to read in February, and by early next week we'll have a decision so we can start getting that book. I'm going to put a deadline. By February 1st we will know what book we're going to be reading so we can plan our next booktube discussion. So thanks for being here, guys. Thank you. It was awesome to discuss this book with you. Runwright Reads Book Club live video number 1 was a success. Have a great night. I'll be back tomorrow with another video because this is booktube and this is what I do. Have a great night. Happy reading. I'm going to get back now to reading from this stash of unread books. Unread books. I have lots of reading to do. Have a good night. Have a great night. Happy reading to everyone. Love you guys. Good night, Patrice.